Hey there, Chief Meteorologist Tim Buckley live with you. It is 8:30 as we work our way through Tuesday evening. And what we've been talking about over the last several hours today is that we kind of want you to be a little alert going into tonight. Obviously, we have this impact alert, as we call it, from about 10 p.m. this evening through 5 in the morning tomorrow. There's a risk of some storms. Now, don't expect you to stay up that whole time, of course, but the whole point of this is to kind of let you know that there could be a couple of threats overnight, what you can do about it, where those storms are, and kind of how they're moving about the area. We are expecting a couple storms in the region during the overnight that could be on the strong side, maybe even severe. It's a rather low risk for our part of the state, but even still kind of want to be ready for that. So I'd recommend having your alerts turned on. Make sure you find those wireless emergency alert settings on your phone. I know that's a lot of lingo, but you go into settings, there should be an emergency alerts button. Make sure it's turned on because there's a non-zero chance of a tornado warning across the state tonight, including our area. It's not that likely, but it is something that if it happens, you definitely want to know about it and not sleep through it. So make sure that button is checked on for this evening. Clouds are around. We've seen those clouds moving in over the last several hours as we take a live view across our Triad area. It's a pretty nice evening. If you have a keen eye, you'll notice the Dash playing a baseball game over there in Winston-Salem. There's nothing wrong with that. Everything is still fine for several more hours, most likely, across our part of the state. But in the southeast, there's a big risk of severe weather, and in fact, it's been quite bad in Tennessee of all places. That's really been the bullseye throughout the night tonight. So when we show you a map like this, we're talking about the threat of severe thunderstorms. How likely is it that your area will have severe weather? This product comes from the place called the Storm Prediction Center. It's part of the National Weather Service. They're based out in Oklahoma, and they're kind of the experts when it comes to this type of stuff, tornadoes and severe thunderstorms. So we have this scale on a 1 through 5 level. 1 is the most common and the lowest risk of having a bad storm. Level 5 is the rarest and it's extreme, usually only issued once or twice a year. You have all those others in the middle, 2s and 3s. That's what we have in the middle of the South through tonight. That orange area is a level 3 risk, especially focused on Tennessee, and they've had a really rough go of it for the last several hours. Right now we're taking a live look. This again is just after 8:30. Lots of red boxes popping up on the screen across Tennessee, parts of northern Alabama too, and over toward Jackson, Mississippi. All of those red areas, those are tornado warnings that are happening right now. There's at least about 6 of them ongoing across the South. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of these, and then we'll kind of zoom into our local details back here at home in North Carolina in just a minute. First off, to orient yourself, this is Nashville, Tennessee at the top of your screen. Those storms have started to blow through the Music City. Here's Huntsville, Alabama. They have some tornado warnings right now. Chattanooga, Tennessee is here. Atlanta would be just off the bottom of your screen. So you can see what's happening. Not everyone getting a bad storm, but the ones that are out there are really heavy duty and packing a pretty big punch right now. So we've zoomed right in to Tennessee, looking at the live radar right now. Honestly, some towns I'm not all that familiar with, but these are the spots that are under the gun at this time. McMinnville, Irving College, these are places in Coffee County, Grundy County, Van Buren, and Warren counties. And the reason that you have a tornado warning anytime with a thunderstorm is if that storm really starts to rotate. So the difference between a severe thunderstorm warning and a tornado warning, it all has to do with how the wind is moving inside that storm. So a lot of times when we're in a tornado warning, you'll see us talk about the storm winds or the velocity mode. That's when you get these reds and greens on the screen just like this. And what we're seeing in that part of Tennessee is not good. Notice those bright greens right up against the bright reds. That's showing us some spinning motion inside the storm. So it's very likely there could be a tornado happening right now in that town that looks like it's called Irving College, Tennessee. So that's what those storms are capable of throughout the night tonight. Now, just up the road, this is another tornado warning in Tennessee right now that also looks pretty scary. This is right here near Lantana, Crab Orchard, and Interstate 40 as well, south of Crossville. Looks like Highway 127. This is some real tight rotation, which would indicate probably have a tornado happening right now in that part of Tennessee. We can look at it on the radar mode as well. Again, that storm is chugging along. All of these are moving east and northeast. So that one headed eventually toward Harriman. Looks like the town over there, Harriman, not too far from Interstate 40. So that's kind of the area that's really under the gun in Tennessee. Farther south, Huntsville, Alabama has really been getting it. There are a couple of these storms that have been confirmed tornadoes for tonight. That's the city of Huntsville right here. There's I-67. A couple of different storms just kind of rolling their way off to the east. And this is what could start to clip northern Georgia within the next hour or two. So that's going to move through the northern part of the state and possibly clip toward Chattanooga, Tennessee as well. Either of these could be producing tornadoes at this time. So you get the idea. That's what they're seeing out to the west of us. Now let's go back to that storm risk board. Remember what I was saying? They have a higher risk of weather out there. They're in the level 3. For us here in the green, we're in the level 1 chance. So yes, there is a chance of storms overnight tonight, but not like they're seeing out west. And so our risk is quite a bit lower, which makes the bad storms a little bit less likely for our area. We can take that risk and then break it down into different categories. So what are the chances for tornadoes? What are the chances for high winds or for hail? Let's do that right now. So going one by one, here's the tornado risk across the Carolinas as we go through tonight. Notice everybody is in that green shade. That's the lowest risk of tornadoes that you can have. However, it's not totally blank. So it doesn't mean we have a 0 tornado risk for tonight. Instead, it's just a low risk, a very low risk at that, but something that we have to let you know about just in case it were to happen. Now, when it comes to hail, we've had a lot of hail recently, right? This springtime in North Carolina, there's been lots of hail falling from the sky when we get those bad storms. There's a chance of hail tonight, but it's not all that high. It's lower than in recent storms, so I'm not that worried about the hail potential for tonight. Wind risk, the potential of damaging wind gusts in our area, it's low, but it's not 0 either. So all of our threats for tonight are low, but still worth mentioning so that you know before you get ready for bed, and make sure you have those alerts turned on. Let's take a look at the live radar pretty close to home now. So here we are in the Triad. There's Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and High Point, Rockingham County at the top. The darker shaded counties up there, that's Virginia. So where are we seeing some storms right now? Well, none of these are actually storms, but it's the first action we've had to track on the radar throughout the day today. We're looking in Wilkes County specifically. Right now there's a little bit of a downpour here in Wilkesboro, looking closer to Moravian Falls or so. We can track it just moving from west to east, and there's not really all that much strength to it, but these are the first ones that we'll want to start watching over the next couple of hours. How are they growing? Are they staying weak? Are they getting stronger? Are they rotating a little bit? To my quick eye, it does look like there is at least a little bit of rotation here, so there might be some of that threat for us to be tracking as we go throughout the rest of the evening. I'll tell you what has been impressive way down to our south. I moved the map really quickly here. We're down into South Carolina now. There's been one storm that's been what we call kind of a supercell thunderstorm, and it's been rolling through the Charlotte suburbs on the south side of the area. So York, South Carolina, Rock Hill right about here, Fort Mill right up there, Charlotte just off the screen. You see that big storm, and it has a couple of features that we see sometimes, these notches that we would call an inflow notch. Basically, it has that signal that there might be some rotation inside the storm. Now, right now, there's no tornado warning on it. There's no severe thunderstorm warning on it, but it tells the story that yes, there is that potential, the way the atmosphere is working out today, that there could be some twisting of these storms, there might be some rotation, and a couple of them could get on the strong to maybe even severe side. Temperatures right now low to middle 70s, so we're not cooling off all that much. It's been a pretty comfortable day. It's been a pretty comfortable evening. But the fact that we're keeping some of that warmth around, that's going to keep that potential for showers and storms overnight tonight. Storms like warmth, they also really like humidity. And it hasn't been humid yet today, but what we're seeing now is what I was expecting. Some of that humidity off to the south is starting to move northward. So you see those dew points in the mid 60s. That's going to make it easier for showers and storms to get a little stronger once they move into our area. So I do think that'll continue to be the case. You can see it across the Carolinas that we're going to get pretty muggy overnight tonight, and we should stay muggy into the day tomorrow. So summarizing everything I just said right there, storm threats through tonight. Pretty low chance of wind gusts, pretty low chance of hail, and even lower chance of tornadoes. But still, want to make sure you know about it. 10 p.m. through 5 in the morning. Now let's look at the Futurecast. What this is a computer model that we show you every day on the news to kind of estimate how showers and storms are popping up and moving across the area. So this is what it's estimating right now at about 8:40. It's doing okay. Remember, we just showed you a little shower and storm in Wilkesboro. That's what it's predicting too. It stays really calm until about 12 to 1 in the morning. At that point, yes, there are some storms that are popping up. On this view, none of them look to be all that strong or concerning, so that would be fine. But let's go farther along from that. Between 2, 3, and 4 a.m., a couple of strong storms do show up on the model, and then just as quickly as they arrive, they also go away really fast too. So by 5 a.m., 6 a.m., we're done. There's nothing going on anymore at that point. And we have dry weather tomorrow, sunshine by the middle of the day, and well, it's just kind of hot out there. Temperatures will be in the 80s. So what's causing all of this is a warm front moving through. We have a cold front coming in tomorrow. That's going to wipe out that humidity and bring in some drier air, more comfortable air by tomorrow afternoon and into tomorrow night. So the trend, the humidity trend, kind of looks like this. This is unusual for this time of year in the Carolinas. Notice we're coming into Memorial Day weekend here, and we're going to see some very dry, comfy air. It'll feel almost like fall a little bit. That's weird for May anyway. And as far as rain potential, you know, we're seeing that chance of storms tonight. Some of them could be strong. Once we go through the rest of the week, it should be mostly dry, and that should be the case pretty much through the weekend as well. So if you have Memorial Day weekend plans, I think you're in pretty good shape until we get to Monday. That's when some rain could start to arrive. So Memorial Day might be a little bit on the soggy side, but not really until then. Right now, we'll continue to stay watching and be alert for you as we go through the next several hours. But Sydney, kind of what we're tracking is, you know, this is one of these chances where we know enough to say there could be some bad storms, but we can't say exactly where they're going to be or even how many there are going to be across the area. So kind of a better safe than sorry type of, if that makes sense.
Right, absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about some of the serious threats that are kind of on your mindset as well too when it comes to the wind, the hail. What would you say is something that's really a big red flag?
Well, the main concern that I always have when it comes to a nighttime situation is that we're not awake. We're not really doing anything that would have us, you know, so there's nothing to catch your eye, because if you're just sleeping, you really aren't even engaged with the day. So the main thing for tonight is to make sure you have those alerts turned on your phone. A lot of times it can be annoying, and no one wants to get waken up by a text message or something or a push alert. But when it comes to tornado warnings or something, you really want to make sure those are checked on. And most all of you have that happen. It's the same thing that buzzes for an Amber Alert, right?
Yep.
You can turn those off too. We recommend not doing it, but just make sure in those settings that they're turned on, because that way, if it does happen to be, you know, a warning for Rockingham County or for Alamance or wherever you might live, it'll buzz, you'll wake up, I assure you of that, and then you can get to that safe spot. So talking about those risks, probably the biggest thing that we could see, or the most likely thing that we could see, would maybe be some trees down or some power outages, but they should be pretty isolated. It's not the type of thing where it'll be widespread across the whole area. It's just kind of a smaller, some small storms could do a little something to parts of our area, not the whole area, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I know the Triad was in the low risk area as of right now as well too. What could it look like for overnight, for it to evolve over time? What would that look like?
So probably what will happen is, you know, we're in that low risk right now. They'll reassess that kind of every couple of hours. So probably what they'll do for us is they'll kind of just keep us in that low risk until we start to see some of the storms literally move through the area. And then once they kind of clear certain zones, once you get a storm, it's kind of a lot harder to get another one, because these storms just kind of gobble up the fuel that they need to run. And so you're not likely to get another one. So probably we'll stay in that low risk through, you know, after midnight. And then eventually, once you get toward those morning hours, we can start to sound the all clear, kind of from west to east. It kind of moves through like a line. So yeah, there might still be a threat for Alamance at 5 a.m. There won't be for Wilkes or for Forsyth, for example. Kind of that's the way it works.
And when these storms come, Tim, we always are dealing with power outages in specific areas of the Triad. What would be your advice to people who might live in a sensitive area, might be a little bit nervous about the impact their power could have in this type of storm ahead of it?
Everyone knows their neighborhood pretty well, right? So probably if you live in a prone area or around a lot of trees, those type of things, think about what you wished you'd done in the past. Even though the risk of power outages is pretty low for most of us, some people have a better risk than others. I know, for example, whenever my power goes out, I can never find the flashlight. That's on me. That's my fault.
Yeah.
So right now, if you're watching us here on WFMY Plus, where are your flashlights? Where are the batteries? Do they work? Just turn it on and off. Those would be good things to do that you would be kicking yourself for later on. So check those supplies, and more importantly, make sure that those phones are charged up. Keep them charged overnight, because it doesn't do you any good if they're out of power.
Yeah, and we obviously throughout the day we saw the devastation out west. Specifically, I'm thinking about St. Louis, and we saw the destruction out there. Is that the type of storm that we're seeing come through the same system here to our area as well too? Not as significant as they had it, but the same type of system.
Believe it or not, this system has kind of been sitting and spinning in that part of the country for the better part of like 4 or 5 days already. So it's really been slow moving, and there hasn't been a lot to move it along, but now it's finally just chugging into our part of the country. Thankfully for us, it's going to be in and out. It's not going to sit. So we only deal with it for a couple of hours. Those other states, gosh, like Missouri, like you said, and Kansas and others, Kentucky, they've been seeing multiple days of this. So we're very fortunate. Not only is our threat pretty low, but it's also short. So it's good to have a short threat that we can kind of handle. If you get into that storm fatigue day after day after day, we've done that before, mostly with tropical systems. That can be where you really have that fatigue settle in, and it's not fun.
And again, just if you could point one more time, how many updates do you get in regards to just the weather world in general throughout the night?
Sure, yeah. So I mean, our radar is updated like every minute to 2 minutes. So when we're sitting here, even if we're not with you on air, behind the scenes, we'll be watching and looking at each storm that pops up, just to kind of see. We don't issue the warnings. That's the National Weather Service's job, but we're there being ready. And every if there's a storm that starts to look suspicious, we'd be watching literally every 1 to 2 minutes to see if it gets to that point where it looks like we might have to break in and tell you about it.
And that's why it's important to make sure you have that News 2 weather app right there by your side or in your pocket or close by, because you really do want to stay weather alert. And we know you have another cut-in coming up at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, we'll have another update for you then, and of course the news coming on at 11, and we'll do a little afterwards as well, right at that point.
Okay, we'll see you then.